You're listening to the Reds Podcast.
This is episode number 127. Went to Vegas with some people. One of the guys got in a little bit of trouble. That story is coming up.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
I was in Las Vegas, Nevada, about 10 years ago. And looking back on it, it probably wasn't the best location for what I wanted to do. I was with a bunch of musicians, and I had taken them out there to spend a few days working on marketing plans. I got them away from where they normally were, Nashville, New York, Los Angeles. I thought it'd be good just to take them out to Las Vegas. But if you've ever been to Las Vegas, you know that there are a lot of ways to get into trouble. If you have any kind of addiction, Las Vegas is not the place for you, whether it's food, drugs, sex, gambling, drinking, everything that you can get into trouble with, Las Vegas has it. We were working long hours. We'd start about 9 a.m., sometimes ending as late as 11 p.m. And these are guys that like to relax. They're used to going out, used to hanging out in clubs. So after we were done, a lot of the guys would head out. As long as they were back the next morning, I was completely cool with it. An interesting thing happened to one of them, which I'm going to share with you. This guy went to a bar, just an average hotel casino bar, nothing fancy, nothing special, and was hanging out, having a drink, kind of reflecting on the day. And he was approached by a woman, and they started talking. And if you've ever been to Las Vegas, you understand that nobody out there does anything for free. And this woman was no exception. And this guy and this woman made a deal to go back up to his room and conduct business. But he didn't have any cash on him. And she wasn't the kind of woman that took credit cards. She worked cash only. But he did have an ATM card, so they stopped by an ATM machine. He took out his money. They went up to his room, hung out a little bit. We're just going to say that. After that was done, this guy went to sleep, and the next morning, that's when I caught up with him. What had happened was he woke up, his wallet was nowhere to be found. To piece everything together, what had happened was this woman had watched him type in his code on the ATM machine. She'd memorized it. She'd taken his money from their initial transaction, but once he was asleep, had taken his ATM card, and when he called his bank to cancel everything, found out that she had been all over Las Vegas, withdrawing money, spending money on this thing. So this guy had a bank account that was depleted by who knows how much and was basically without money. They had to get him another ATM card so he could pay his bills and get home. Had to cancel everything, credit cards, no cash, no license. It was a bad, bad time for him. And I mentioned this to a friend of mine who lives out in Las Vegas. I said, can you believe this idiot? And I told him the story that I just told you. And he told me a story that was very, very similar. A guy went to a bar. A woman approached him, started having a conversation, bought him a drink. And the next thing you know, this guy woke up in a hotel room, but he wasn't in the bed. He was in a bathtub, and the bathtub was full of ice. There was a note next to him which told him to call 911, explains what had happened. Hey, I've got this note. I just woke up in this tub full of ice. Said to call 911, so that's what I'm doing. And the operator knew. She said, sir, I need you to remain calm. Reach around to your back and let me know if you can see any tubing there. And he did, and there was tubing there. And he said, yeah, there's something here in the back of me. She said, sir, one of your kidneys has just been harvested. There's a ring of organ thieves, and they have picked you. They've taken one of your kidneys. It's going to be okay. It's not life-threatening, but we do have paramedics on the way. Stay where you are. They'll be there in just a minute, and we're going to take care of you. So my friend told me this story, and it got me thinking, because while the first story that I told you is true, the one he told me, the second story, is not true. So I want to talk today on this episode about what gets people to spread a message because these urban legends, things like waking up in a hotel room in a bathtub full of ice, the reason that people spread those messages are the same reasons that people are going to spread your message. So let's talk a little bit about why people spread messages, share products, why we have urban legends, why we have folklore, and why we have things that go viral on the internet. And the first thing, when you look at a story like this, is it's very stimulating. It's like a soap opera. A lot of times these stories involve murder, sex, drugs. It's not unlike looking at the National Enquirer. You have an element of danger. Somebody almost died. Now somebody is okay. You have something like Bruce Jenner's going through right now. Is there or is there not some kind of gender reassignment surgery happening? You've got something that's scandalous. You've got something that activates something in our brain that's been there for a long time, like a fear mechanism or something that's stimulated. It's the same thing that you get when you watch cable news, you watch CNN, you watch Fox. You're going to get that hit of energy that makes you be alert and think that something is happening. And all these stories have that. So it's stimulating, just like a soap opera. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. There's an element of danger. And this is the second thing that really makes a lot of these things spread, is that they could happen to you or somebody that you love. For example, a guy at the hotel bar. How many of us have walked past a hotel bar, been in the vicinity, been in the hotel bar? Most of us. A lot of the more popular urban legends you've heard: female college student in her dorm room, a woman home alone. It's us, somebody that we love. There's a story about a kid using a phone, and this was very popular, one, when people would use payphones, but also when people had change, because there are different varieties of it. Somebody reaching into the change drawer, looking for change, as kids used to do on a payphone, getting pricked by a needle with some kind of disease that it gives him. You probably heard the one about people driving around, no headlights on their cars, and when you flash them, that's the signal for them to start following you. It's a gang initiation. When I moved to Memphis, and this was over 20 years ago, somebody told me this story the first week that I was in town, told it to a lot of people, and this story had been spread so effectively. So many people had been reached by it. I knew several people, if they were driving around and saw someone driving at night without lights, very dangerous, they wouldn't flash the person because they were scared that it was a gang initiation and the person would follow them, kill them, beat them up just to try to get in the gang. So there's an element of this could happen to you. And I want you to think about that in marketing. And this week when you're out, notice these things. When you see something like a make money niche, get a job, get educated, lose weight, get in better shape, meet more women, there has to be that element of this could happen to you. And there are always those stories. For example, Subway with Jared. You've got a guy who all he did was eat Subway, lost a couple 100 pounds. It could happen to you. It's so simple. And that's why that message was spread far and wide. So that's number 2. Third, there's an element of social currency to this. You want to be in the know. It feels good to be in the know on something like this. For example, me moving to Memphis, and there were guys that were already there. They were the insiders. They knew something that I didn't know, and they were boosting their credibility with me by letting me know, hey, this is something to watch out for. We've all been that guy. When somebody comes to your town, you are that guy that's in the know, and these stories have social currency. For example, let me take it back to the diet niche, because this is such a good one to use as an example. If you found out that you could eat bacon and eggs and meat, but no bread, and still lose weight, that's so counterintuitive. You're in the know. You're going to spread that, and that's how the Atkins diet was spread. That's how any new diet gets spread. You're in the know, and you're letting all your buddies that need to lose weight know via the social currency that you get, because that feels good. Here's another thing about the guy who wakes up in a bath full of ice in the hotel room. A story like that has the ability to add personal touches. Remember when you were a kid and you would play the game called Operator, where you would send a message to the person on your left, and he or she would send that same message to the person on his or her left, and it would go around a circle, and then you would get the message in its final form, and it would be a completely different message. That's because when we hear things, we have our own version of them. And we also explain things with our own version of them. So the ability to add a personal touch, if you've got a marketing element where somebody can change it around, see themselves in it, that's going to help them not only buy more, but it's going to help them to spread the message. And that's the great thing about the story, again, where the guy wakes up in a bath full of ice in a hotel room. There's elements of personal touches in there. Now, that story's been spread around for years and years. If you look it up on Snopes.com, you'll see varying versions of it, not only passed around through word of mouth, but also passed around via email. And there's versions where there's not a note on the side of the table. There is lipstick written on the wall, all sorts of variations of that. And speaking of the variations, sometimes the guy isn't even missing a kidney. Sometimes the guy gets connected with a prostitute and the message is, "Welcome to the wonderful world of AIDS." You probably heard that one as well. There are all sorts of different versions of this story. This is something for you to watch out for as well, because a lot of times your marketing message, the one that you want to get out there, again, it's like that game called Operator. People will twist it. They'll hear what they want, and what you want to get out there isn't getting out there at all. Now, if you look at a lot of the conspiracy theories, if you turn a pack of Marlboro cigarettes upside down, again, you can look all this up at Snopes.com, and I'll have it linked from the show notes, redpodcast.com/127 for this episode and all the links to the things that I'm talking about. But turning a Marlboro cigarette upside down, secret message. If you've ever heard of Procter & Gamble, there's a secret message within the logo, apparently. That, of course, not true. Again, it'll be linked at redpodcast.com/127. You want to be aware of what gets people to spread messages, and that's what I'm talking about. But as a side note, be aware of how people are spreading messages. You, as the originator of your message, need to be giving your version of it constantly, because it's going to get, like Operator, switched over and over and over and over again. Look at some of the conspiracy theories that have come up regarding products. This product is involved with the KKK. This product is involved with Nazis. This product is a New World Order product. You hear all sorts of crazy stuff. And that's because these companies are not doing a good job of getting their message out there. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen to you. You're likely a small business if you're listening to this, but it could, and the same message applies when it comes to you spreading what you want to spread among customers. Here's another thing about the iced bathtub story that I love. This is why it's been spread far and wide, and something for you to consider when you're talking about your origin story, why you do what you do, how your company was founded, or when you're talking about your product. And that is a very simple story arc. Here's a story arc that I like to use. There's a person, a place, a situation, and a result. Let's think about the bathtub. You've got a businessman. That's your person. He's in a hotel. The situation, he's in a bar with a beautiful woman. The result, she drugs his drink, takes his kidney out. It's very simple, and even if you've only heard that story once, you can likely get a grip on it, and that is the reason you're able to pass it on to somebody else. Although that's part of the reason that your message can change so easily, because if you've only heard it once, you may not remember all the details, just enough to spread it and just enough to mess it up. But that's something for you to consider when you're coming up, again, with your origin story, the story of your product, how your product works. It's a person, a place, a situation, and result. If you use those 4 elements to your story arc, that's going to make your speech memorable. That's going to make the story about your product memorable. It's going to make a sales letter memorable, a podcast memorable. Person, place, situation, and result. Thanks for listening. I appreciate your support of Red Podcast. We're available online at redpodcast.com. All the back episodes are there. You can get in touch with me. You can get in touch with Laurel. If you've got episode suggestions that you want to send to us, redpodcast.com is the place to do it. Subscribe via iTunes. If you're on there, just search for Real Entrepreneur Development. And while you're there, leave us a rating, leave us a review. When you do that, that helps us to come up more frequently in the iTunes search engine. And when that happens, we build the Real Entrepreneur community. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.